Right, so please note that this meeting is being live streamed, recorded and published in accordance with Council's live streaming and recording of meetings policy. To these present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who's invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream recording. So, welcome everyone to the Strategic Asset and Planning Committee meeting for the 10th of September. We've got some apologies here. We've got Councillor Turner, Councillor Maguire, Councillor Downward, and Councillor Crosing will be late. She's in a meeting at the moment. So in regards to staff, we've got Mr. Willsmore is actually away and Rob's going to step in and fill the breach there. So, okay, so we'll get into it. So item number one, members' declaration of interest. Is there any declaration of interest? No, thank you. Item two, public forum. There is no one in the public forum. Item three, the confirmation of committee minutes. So there's a recommendation here that the minutes of the Strategic Asset and Planning Committee meeting held on the 9th of July 24 are taken as read and confirmed as an accurate record of proceedings of the meeting. So do we have a mover? Councillor Dennis and Councillor Grundy seconded. Any questions? Yep.
Yes, I'd just like to ask that in regard to items 5.1 and 5.2 from the previous agenda, that we have reports tabled as to the outcomes of those items at the next SAP meeting. That's
noted. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Item 4, matters laid on the table from previous meetings. There is none. We move into 5, reports for decision. So 5.1, the road classifications. There is a recommendation here. So now bear with Rob. So considering this is Daniel's meeting report, but Rob, did you want to go into and discuss what we've got there, please?
Thank you. So the report's there in front of you regarding road reclassification based on a couple of requests made by Councillor Ireland in regards to Dickinson's Road, Shorts Lane, Greens Road, and then Daniel's also looked at the classification of a number of other roads based on traffic count information and their use. There's a lot of detail and information there. I'm happy to go through each one, or I'm happy to take the report as read and take any questions.
Okay, so would you, given that there's a fair bit of information here, happy to go out of meeting procedure to discuss? Yeah. Show of hands, please. That's carried. Thank you.
So, question, Mr. Chair. Yep. Given that we generally have a fairly relaxed style in these meetings, and our council meetings are far more formal, are we referring to each other as Mr. Stead or Rob or Councillor Ross or Damien? What's the protocol here?
I'm happy to.
I'm happy for a first name basis personally.
Yep.
It's still more relaxed with live streaming, but it's still the same meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand that, but we've had previously we've had a less formal approach. Can I put it in those terms? I know relaxed would be the wrong word.
Right, same, I presume.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to start the form? So, Pete.
Well, if we're going to, I will, coming out of this, wish to move a motion, but in regard to Dickinson's Road, it's at present an access rural road. It's got direct access, and this is the definition of this rural road. Multiple properties and industries, caters for low travel speeds, design speed standards of 50 to 60 kilometres an hour as an access rural road. With a traffic carrying function generally less than 20 vehicles a day. Typical trafficable width of 6 metres. And with these points, it's not really catered for as an access rural road. It's got a lot of through traffic, whether it be tourism and whether it be heavy vehicles. I understand that your traffic counts are only showing that, they've dropped slightly to 3.5 heavy vehicles a day, but that's still 20 B doubles a week. This is not just local traffic, people getting to their properties we're talking. Open to discussion.
I would just make the point that it's the main road from Bordertown to Lucendale, so it's very much a through road rather than servicing immediate property owners.
As you live on that road?
I live on that road, yeah. Look, I've dodged the cars.
So it's a question. So historically it's classified, right, as access rural, right? So, and it sits at that level in the hierarchy due to the number of vehicles. What contemporary roads do we have that are similar in daily usage that sit in that specification as well that we could compare? Because I feel like if it's unique as it's been described, but it sits in that part of the hierarchy, is there a contemporary that we could compare it to say, right, well, that road's the same? Is that a dumb question?
Fair question, but I probably can't provide an answer. I'm not sure if Rob can with the...
Not off the top of my head, no, but I'm happy to look into that.
That's fine.
Given that is a unique question, given it's got highway access on one end and a destination which may be Lucendale or wouldn't be Kingston, but definitely Lucendale. Kingston has taken another, or from Bordertown they may not. In fact, they may not. But Kingston would actually go through that way too. So, it's mostly quite a unique road.
It is. My only reservation with jumping outside our hierarchy is that it opens us up to financial liabilities in other areas. Like we have a hierarchy for a reason. We pick out individual roads that we're passionate about and we start ignoring the numbers and we start looking at other things that need to happen, road services. We start changing the classification of a road outside its designated place within the hierarchy. What liability does that procure for us as a council if we start jumping land? You'll be right, Pete, you can come in next. If a road falls out of the hierarchy in a different area, that's my concern.
Rob just answered that. I don't know about passionate. I kind of haven't got a passion for this road personally, but when you've got B doubles that can't pass each other over a 6 metre width road, and one of the local landowners had to pull one or two out now, I think that's speaking for itself, to be honest.
I suppose, again, I consign, lots and lots of B doubles a week, and there's lots of roads that we push B doubles around in our area that they have problems, and all roads aren't made equal, and lots of roads have B doubles going down them. So if we started saying, well, we're going to jump outside the hierarchy because a B double drives down it, then we're probably, again, I'm just concerned that if we go outside our governed, I'd like to hear, if we're going to change a road outside the hierarchy, I'd like to hear that it's contemporaries. It doesn't open us up to millions of dollars of upgrades, I suppose.
Further to Tom's comments, the report starts out by saying traffic count data is used to inform the decision making. However, increased or decreased traffic counts may not mean the function of the road has changed. So while I accept Tom's point, there are variations that can be considered when we consider the standards that something's allocated to in the road hierarchy.
I was going to make a similar point, but probably the other end of that, which is, the count data forms one part of it, but the function of the road is another part of the classification. It sounds to me like the function of this road is something that doesn't fit within its current classification, and that's a reason to consider moving it up in the hierarchy.
Can I suggest we leave Dickinson's Road off for further information to come back?
I just want to add something there. Yeah. We advise our trucks are going to Taniara trucks all the time for servicing. So there'll be a truck every day goes through there. The only time we don't use it is when it's wet because the trucks get dirty. And the reason we tell them to go that way is to keep the trucks off of Grub Road and get on the bitumen as soon as you can.
If I may, Councillor Rayner, why wouldn't you use Ricketts Road, which comes off the end of Marambro, and then there's just a little dog leg, and then Ricketts is right there? Is it the approach to the highway is the issue?
That's that narrow bitumen one, isn't it?
No, it's a narrow, unsealed road.
Ricketts Lane.
Ricketts Lane. Yeah. There's a dead straight road that goes straight to the Ruddick Highway. Off the end of Marambro, or just past the Marambro property, and then it goes straight to the highway. And I was wondering why why that one's not being used, and Dickinson is, because it's dead straight, or is it the approach to the Ruddick, because it rises up to the highway?
Yeah, well, you see, you've already buttoned off, haven't you, when you come off of Dixon's Road to turn onto the road into Bordertown. So you've already slowed right down, then you've got to slow down twice. And it takes more power to get them going again.
Okay, right.
We'll get some more information on that one then. So, show of hands to stay out of meeting procedure. Thank you.
So only a question. So subject to what you move once we come out or not.
Yes.
So you suggested Dickinson Road is subject to more information. So just to be clear, what information do you want? So make sure we actually provide what you want.
My question,
Yep. So
what contemporary
whatever.
roads that have the same level of
Yep.
3 B doubles a day each way?
Yep.
I don't know how that's traffic counts. I'm probably sort of saying that it's a artery road to Bordertown from Lucendale. That's what it is, isn't it? That's what you're saying.
It's thoroughfare. To be honest, I was going to ask to be put through if we've got Orton's Road, etc., as collector roads. I would have actually said I think it's actually more deserving of that. But one column on the road hierarchy is more than sufficient at this stage.
Okay. Right, so we'll move on to Stewart's Lane.
Sure, yep. So Stewart's Lane again came from a question from Councillor Ireland, and there's a description there, a response there that we prepared in terms of, I believe there's a fair bit of history around this road, and we're recommending, suggesting that Stewart's Lane is classified and remains a limited access road.
It's more the unmade part.
The unmade part, I believe, yes.
The unmade part.
That's more your concern, wasn't it?
Well, it's actually the made part, but it's been changed over 3 different road hierarchies, that's all.
Right.
So,
Stewart's has different.
3 sections.
Which many roads, there's a lot of roads that do. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, it has changed back many years ago. It was an access road for the 1,866 metres in 2019. It was rated as an unsealed surface. And in 2022 in the hierarchy, it had been shifted down to a limited access road and unsealed at 1,230 metres and unformed of 2,400.
From memory.
Yep. So that dropped the 636 metres off of it. That section was dropped off of it, that unsealed section. By the 24, the latest road hierarchy, it's only 1,230 metres in length. What's now on our hierarchy is only recognising that initial first piece. So that's my thoughts on it. It's changed 3 times, and we've still got there's evidence of a road there that was done by previous councils, or if there's no information to the contrary, we must assume that the work that was done there was done by council, I believe.
Well, not actually.
This one's been before previous council, 2 or 3 times, and yeah, there has been work done a long time in the past, and we discussed that in the chamber. Going on the more age workforce that we had, there was no memory of us doing that work. Doesn't mean we didn't, but it just couldn't be clarified who did the work. And that, as Daniel's put in his report, there's various parts of our unmade road network that do have some works done, and sometimes we know about it and sometimes we don't.
There's heaps of examples. So sorry. There's heaps of examples of private citizens upgrading extensions for access to their properties, both outside and inside. Similar to this one, which is accesses a property. Or
Can I just come in and make mention of the fact here that looking back on some of the minutes of the meetings when these decisions were made, it was put down that there was only one landholder at the end who was going to benefit from this. And there's 5 landholders that benefit from the end of this 636 metres. It's not just one landholder. In fact, there could even be more people using it than just the landholders at the end. And I think that needs to be taken into account, apart from the fact that it was a previous road that had been done. I'm not really fussed about who was responsible for the forming of this road. It was used accordingly, and it is important to these landholders.
But it's clear, I mean, there's a small patch of rubble where the culvert went in from memory, because I've been up it, not for a little while, but I have. Majority of it is clearly unmade road. The section that we're talking about.
That 636 metre
Yeah, I think
section.
6, yeah, from
Yeah,
memory.
from there on, it's actually been taken off as not even, it's unformed, and it's even been taken away from that. It's not even an unformed road anymore. It's gone down.
Well, it's an unformed road, so it's not an asset.
It's actually taken off the road hierarchy entirely, so it's not even listed as an unformed road, Trevor. So on this present hierarchy.
Yeah, can I just refer to the report, and it gets back to whether there's material being delivered by whoever. I suppose my question is it legal for any third party or a member of the community to go and place rubble or culverts or white posts?
Well, technically you'd say yes.
That's legal, is it?
No, it would be illegal without doing it without a permit. Does it happen? I'm sure in history it has, yeah.
I'm sure that what you're saying is plausible, but that answer is plausible. But in the meantime, if we haven't got any evidence of any third party being called out on placing material on a road illegally, I think the pub test is that we would need to presume that what's reasonable here is that council probably went ahead and did that.
I don't think it's reasonable to take any approach, because if you don't know, the bottom line is you don't. We kept, like, if I knew we'd done the work, based it on history and discussing with our workforce that.
Tom's reference to third parties putting the rubble out, I accept that completely. Highly unlikely that a producer that's on the end of one of these, roads that doesn't receive much traffic would have put white posts in.
Possibly not, but yeah.
But that's my.
I'm the same as you, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Usually,
Then I'll come back to you.
And, just talking about what's reasonable, the bit that's problematic for me here isn't that we are now considering whether or not to accept this road into our road hierarchy based on whether or not work was done by a third party or council. It's that it was accepted as part of our hierarchy in 2019, and it seems like the decision to remove it is based on a discussion now about who did the works. And so if it was part of our hierarchy, to then make a decision to remove it seems very unfair to the community and to those landholders who potentially have made business and investment decisions around an understanding of what facilities and infrastructure was available to them. And so I think that that's the bit that concerns me, is we did recognise it, we did accept that it was our road, and subsequently have decided that it's not. And I think that that's concerning for potentially future decisions as well, if we can just, suddenly wash our hands of things.
So in response to that, so 2019, that's when we started putting a lot of effort into our AMPs and to have accurate data. So we had a whole X amount of kilometres of road network in various states and some unformed. So generally, all lengths were recorded. So say Shuar's Lane, for an example, was recorded as its full length of road, whether it be a road reserve or unmade or whatever state it was in. So there was no change to the roads. It was just recognising what they actually were. So it wasn't deleting or removing. It was actually trying to classify the roads as they should be, because historically they were just all listed. So with the AMPs started evolving into better data to then inform council, on where investment should be, shouldn't be, etc. So it didn't change what was on ground. There was no change to that. And those roads that were clearly unformed, maybe a little bit of form on them in patches, weren't being maintained before.
Although in the 2019 AMP, it was listed and recognised as an access rural road.
Yes.
So when that classification was done as council, it was accepted that that road was an access rural road, and subsequently the decision has been made to remove it. That's the issue that I'm concerned about.
And I'm suggesting in 2019 and pre, a whole number of roads were just put on the asset register as roads, regardless whether they were formed or not. So if they're not formed, there's no asset to actually list. So all that work done from 2019 onwards was to get better information about what actually existed on the ground, not what existed on paper. So that didn't make any difference to the road, didn't make any difference to what was on the ground. So it didn't increase or decrease expectations because we didn't alter anything on the ground. It was a recognition of what the actual road was, so it was better information, and that's how your AMPs evolve. So if going in that logic, you wouldn't change anything, you'd leave it as it is, otherwise it might upset someone.
I think in most cases with these roads that rubble's been put on them, council's usually taking it on when there's more than one person at the end of it. And Peter's saying there's 5 people use this road, you would think that the council put the rubble there in the first place.
I suppose I think I'm sensing like there's some sort of conspiracy theory that we're trying to downgrade people's roads as council. I don't think that's the case. I think there's a finite amount of money we have to service our roads as a community, and our servicing of those roads is merit based on usage, and usage, as Peter said, like what's the purpose of the road and what are the level of use of those roads per day by individuals within our community. It's not we're trying to quantify as a council how we service our roads based on their need and their use. And these low traffic roads are in the bottom of the hierarchy, hence our financial, our ability to fund those roads is less. Does that make sense? Like we've got a bucket of money and we spread it over all our roads, and we worked out how we can quantify servicing those roads adequately. So that's the purposes of the hierarchy. Yep.
I accept and completely understand that, but I mean, the point here is that this road doesn't even exist on the hierarchy anymore for the section that is being discussed. And that 636 metres is now not even recognised as limited access or unformed. It's just that Shuards Lane is now listed in the hierarchy. My understanding is at 1,230 metres.
So unformed roads, and we're about 600 kilometres roughly of unformed roads. We don't list all them on our AMPs because they're not an asset. Because we don't have to maintain that road because that's unmade, unformed. That's the basis of that.
Sorry, some are, but some aren't. Is that the case of your unformed roads?
I'm not going to...
Because you've got a separate...
Yeah, I'm not going to say there's none listed on there without checking and looking, but that's the premise of it, because it's not an asset, because the asset is not the natural surface. It's anything we put on top to make a formed road. That's the actual asset that we then have to depreciate, maintain and replace in the due course.
I suppose the question, if I may, is the question of reasonable access, to these 5 landholders at the end of, whatever the number is, 1,200 and something, and then beyond that, the extra 600, there are 5 landholders beyond the 1,200 mark. And I suppose it's about reasonable access and what that really means for those landholders and how they access their property throughout the year. During the summer months, no doubt, it's dry, and during the winter months, it may be impassable to all but a tractor. And I do know that during the winter of last year, people were going down there with tractors and trailers and turning it into an absolute quagmire so they could, look after their livestock at the end of the lane. And I don't know whether reasonableness actually comes into the discussion. It's not a measure, and traffic counters are only indicative, and important as an indicator, but it's not, we don't actually base all of our judgment on counters, but, you know, it's an indicative thing.
And that's where traffic counters to assess, you know, one direction, but we've got to assess this on need, and that's a completely different thing.
So I'm looking for some direction here. So what do we? I'll let you have one more comment, Councillor Island.
Well, I was just going to say, you've only got to look at the Google Earth images and you can clearly see the end of that road, that extra 636 metres that was gravelled at some stage. And if I'd purchased a property at the end of that, knowing that it had a gravel road to the gate, and then all of a sudden at some time there's a change in the road hierarchy, and our local council told me that, I'm sorry, you've just got to, if you want a road there, you'll have to do it yourself, then that would be pretty hard to take. And I think that's...
Previous to that transaction, had the road ever been anything other than it is now?
No.
So anyone buying the land would historically know that the road is as it is now, is that correct?
Well, not this, it hasn't had any maintenance done on it for 10 or 15
But
years.
prior to that, had it had any maintenance done on it either?
Well, it
Had it
been graded by council.
Okay.
It's got the...
There's no evidence of that?
Well, put it this way, where the culvert went in, it had the star dropper driven in. I don't know whether the little tag for the grader driver is still there or not, but it had been maintained up to a period in time.
In our previous council term, this road was topical, and I think then we tried to adopt a position of being reasonable with one or two of the landholders in particular. And I think from memory we went down the path of that the council would maintain it in some way or other at the council's discretion. And I don't know if that was favourable with those people or not, it may not have been. But maybe we can go down the path of getting it back onto the hierarchy to maybe formalise what some of the service levels might be.
So there's some direction.
Well, if you want to go back into meeting procedure, I'm happy to.
We can go in and out of meeting procedure for this particular item. So, all right, show of hands to go back into meeting procedure then. Okay.
Just wondering if we might deal with Dickinson's Road in the first instant. Dickinson's Road, so I think our agreed position is that there's a question on notice for Dickinson's Road to find or to
Identify some comparables.
identify if there are any comparable through type roads within the district, you know, as a comparison. So that's just Dickinson's Road.
They can't be sitting in the same part of the hierarchy.
Yeah. So do we need a motion or just for that? Are we happy?
Happy with just direct.
If you want to do a motion, then it's on the books.
Yes.
If you're up to, well, it's up to you guys, really.
Well, I'm happy to move that, or if Tom doesn't want to.
Second.
Just wait and see.
Can you just have a read of that, please?
We'll get the spelling right, that's all right.
Dick Ensign's same level. It's Dick Ensign's.
Same level of the hierarchy, sorry?
For the same code or whatever the description is of the.
And maybe we should refer to some, and usage. Is that too blurry? In relation to that, to Peter's comment around some roads, how did you put it, how do we formalise that in a question? That even though the traffic count is at a certain level, that there are different, it's a through road.
What's in the report at the start?
Right, that's supposed to get that, to find comparable roads. I don't know what.
I think that probably reads okay for us to bring back.
Yep.
We understand the intent of it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So any further comments on that? All in favour? That's carried. All right. So then we'll go to open floor.
I'd like to move that Sheward's Lane, which is currently a 1,230 metre limited access road, have the 636 metre section that has been deleted previously reinstated as a limited access road, please.
Any of that, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was a lot.
Do you want to read that out again slowly?
Yes, please.
The motion is that Shewards Lane, which is currently a 1,230 metre limited access road, have the 636 metres section that has been deleted previously reinstated as limited access road. Thank you.
Thank you for reading nice and slowly.
Just a question, if I may. So the full length of Shewards Lane is 1230, correct? And at the moment it's 600 and something, plus you were looking for another 600, the extra 600, or is it 1230 and there's 600 beyond that?
1230 plus the 6.
I don't know whether that says that.
It's currently at 1230.
I think it's the additional 636 section.
Okay. So the current section 1230 doesn't change, it's the 630 you want to change.
Limited access road have the additional 636
Yes,
metre
maybe
section.
If
just
you wish to change, that'd be great. Thanks, Fiona.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Can you blow that up a little bit for you, please? Just the size of the,
Um,
please. There you go.
I couldn't read it on each
sorry.
other.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seconder, Councillor Grundy? Any, yeah,
Only ask a question for clarity.
Yep.
Do you want costs for road improvements brought back for that? Because if you change the hierarchy, it has to be then constructed to a standard in your AMP.
That can be addressed in a future budget. Yeah, so I don't think we need to now.
You don't want costing?
Well, I think it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt probably.
That's just it's all I'm suggesting is you make a decision, which is fine, but then there's a consequence of it.
Financial implication.
Yes.
I'd like to speak to the motion if that moves over to second it.
Sorry.
so, yep, so,
I don't want to preempt anyone else speaking to the motion, is it?
so did you want to talk?
Well, I am actually happy to add to that, speaking for the motion, that obviously this is not going to be in this budget year. This will be to be considered in the 25-26. I would expect.
Yep.
Thank you.
In speaking against the motion, for the same reason I don't like motions without notice, I think there's some pretty heavy financial consequences for council if we start. I'm not saying this is on the fly because Peter's been working, but I think there are other consequences to. I think over the course of the previous council, there were 2 or 3 roads that came up that were unformed, and we had a pretty strong move. I think there was one at Lucendale. We had a pretty strong move towards forming that up as a road, access road. There were some landholders that were for it, some were against it. Some people didn't want people driving through there, some people did. This is not the case because Shewards Lane is a bit different. It's not a through road, but I don't fully comprehend the financial consequences of changing. Once this road's changed and there's another road, I think that's that's probably why we have the hierarchy and where it sits. So I'll be voting against the motion.
Any further discussion?
Just around clarification that this will then go to the full council
Yes. Yep.
and will be decided again.
Yes. So this is just a recommendation that it's going to go to
Correct.
council for decision. So, Councillor Goodman?
And further to that, when it comes to full council, it will come with costings to help inform that decision.
Well, may, but maybe not. It's timing, whether you get time to actually cost up or not. So, yeah. But until such time as a recommendation is passed by council, we can take the action.
It's good housekeeping.
And as I said, it's not going to be happening until next budget anyhow. That's correct. So, right, so any further discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Right, so we've got the next part, which is Daniel's come up with some recommendations there for a number of roads there for some reclassification. I suppose what we've got here is there is a recommendation there to council, but one question I probably would like to put to the other councillor, or to your councillors, is do you want to have a look at these roads at some stage, just to understand what the request here is, or what are you happy just to go with and discuss the recommendations here?
Are you talking about the Greens Road?
Yeah, well, Miss Greens Road, sorry, I've jumped. So I'll go back a step, go to Greens Road. Yeah, I'll let you go. Sorry.
Yeah, so Greens Road, as I understand, it's probably a very similar situation to Shuard's Lane. It's approximately 750 metres long, the eastern end of Greens Road, and it's currently a local access, but it is unformed at this point in time, based on the hierarchy. Happy to take any questions. As I say, I think it's a similar situation to Shuard's Lane that we've just been talking about.
Right, or should we, or Councillor Ireland, did you want to talk to it?
I'm happy to throw in a little bit, thanks, Chairman Ross. It's very similar to the situation we faced with Shuard's Lane, but it seems now in our hierarchy it's actually been dropped back to a 3,650 metre unformed road. That's my understanding of things, Trevor. To wind the clock back, I mean, it was a limited access track in 2019 for the full 3.6 kilometres, 3,650 metres. The next step was it was a 1,750 metre unsealed and 1,900 metres unformed. And then all of a sudden it's been completely taken off now as an unformed road. And I understand from what Mr. Smart was telling us that, you know, obviously there's been reviews and people have looked at these roads and reclassified them. But there's a shearing shed and livestock facilities and also the need for grain cartage that people relied on down that road. There again, it was sheeted. There is sheeting for quite a distance along there, but people are now driving off the edge of that because it was in a state of disrepair. It wasn't being maintained appropriately, so that it's not trafficable on the sheeting where it was. So culverts and white posts, very similar to the Shuard's Lane.
Did you want to go to meeting procedure, or are you just happy to go with some recommendations here? Yep, Councillor Ross.
Just a question. In fact, last week I inspected this with Councillor Goodman and Councillor Ireland, and Greens Road. There's a raised section along, you know, the full length, pretty much from the shearing shed heading east, that has been rubble, and they're not driving on the rubble anymore. They're driving off the side. So it may well be worth an inspection or, you know, a visit just to actually ascertain, you know, what's going on there, Mr. Chairman or Rob, get an understanding of, you know, what's actually there at Greens. You know, it's got flares 4 foot high on the, you know, what was perhaps you know, with further inspection, there may be rubble there that hasn't been maintained. So,
okay, I'm after some direction here. So, did you want to hold off on this one and have it inspected, go out and have a look?
I'm happy for that to sit on the table for some inspection.
All right. Okay. All right. We'll then go to the next part then. So this is to do with those roads there with the reclassifications. So did you want to talk to this, Rob?
Very briefly, really. We've obviously been looking at the traffic count information, more around the urban roads and how the numbers sort of stack up. And everything else in the table on page 6, it's got the sort of current classification and the current traffic counts where the classification fits into. So we're recommending to make the changes. just to basically update in terms of traffic count that are occurring as of today, sort of bring them up to speed as traffic movements change. And then, as you can see on pages 7 and 8, there is a list of individual roads that we've been through where we're recommending that we change those classifications for that reason. I think a couple of them, to be completely honest, may well slip through the last sort of review, so it's just tidying those up. And then there's others that are based on the traffic counts and bring them in line with the new traffic count hierarchy table. Taking questions?
Yeah. So I suppose I'll go back to my other question earlier. Are you happy with these recommendations, or do you want to go out and have a look at these roads? Yeah.
Can we deal with them individually?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm happy to do that.
For a start, anyway. Look, I had some things written down about Lindsay Dillage Road.
Do you want to go to meeting procedure and we can just discuss it?
I guess so, yes.
Yeah. So show of hands. Karen. So,
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, there's landholders at the end of that road and what have you. I question whether is this a bit of a special case and that there's potentially tourism around it. My instinct with my knowledge of the road and that sort of thing, it really tells me that I'd prefer to leave it probably as a access rural. I think it is at the moment, isn't it?
Lindsay Hoods is actually currently classified as a collector.
Yes.
So
I did my homework several nights ago. So I just had in mind access rural. Well, obviously it's not a collector, but access rural is not as low as, are we allowed to use that term? Limited access. So if there is tourism around there, it would receive, and there's landholders around there, it would receive some kind of maintenance. Mm-hmm. That were my thoughts.
I'd be comfortable with it moving down a step on the hierarchy to access rural. I'm not sure when the vehicle counts were done, but obviously if there's water in the lagoon, it's likely that those counts would be a lot higher. I'm not sure when it was most recently graded, but when I last went along there were very large, big potholes, so probably not even meeting our limited access road standards at the moment.
it's actually graded today, ironically.
There we go, fabulous.
okay. Councillor Lyon?
Yeah, I certainly have concerns about dropping it down 3 levels from as a collector rural, jumping local rural, jumping access rural back to a limited access road. I think I am quite happy with it being access rural. I would hate to drop it down to a limited access road and then all of a sudden be asking for it to be increased in the hierarchy in another 12 months' time. That's all.
Thoughts? Okay.
Well, if we're going to deal with, I don't know, if we're going to deal with these individually, I'm happy to move that it be reallocated as an access rural.
Okay.
In or out?
No, do you want to keep? Yeah. Yeah. So we're out. So we'll just keep working our way through, and then we can do that. We'll just make note as each time. So, Aitchison Avenue, Haynes Edwards Road.
Yeah, well, I happen to know this road quite well, and again, I wouldn't be rushing to change that. I didn't think, without knowing what others are thinking.
I'll agree with that.
That road does lead into the walking track as well, doesn't it? The end there. Yeah, you don't often see cars parking at the bottom of that, but you can't really get off Lane Coop Road onto it because Lane Coop Road's a bit scary, but you can come up past and come down past Haines's old engineering spot there to get onto there to the start of that walking track out to the caves.
Okay. Aitchison Avenue. Comments about that?
So they become more popular.
Aitchison?
Well, regarding these roads, these sealed township roads and that sort of thing, they're all seeking to be increased on the road hierarchy. And there's not really, in the report, I can't pick up any reasoning or any context. I guess my open question is, why are we seeking to do that? And further to our previous housekeeping comments, would there be an implication, a financial implication? Would there be an implication for grants potentially? And is it in our interest to do this based on grant funding, which we've spoken about in the last month, which is perhaps new on the scene? And what are the implications for DIT, given these roads, I think at an intersection would attract some state funding perhaps? So a number of questions there, except for Richmond Street in Hyndman, which was going to be put down the hierarchy.
So has the report been triggered by the fact that the recent counts are higher than the previous counts and they've jumped into a different part of the hierarchy? That's the way I read the report.
Yeah, that's my interpretation and conversation with Daniel as why the report's been presented this way. I think you've made some good points there that if they are adjoining DIT roads, if they are higher up our hierarchy, they may well attract some kind of funding or a better view, let's say.
My observation would be that in a township situation, it wouldn't matter where it was appearing on the hierarchy. If there was a pothole in the middle of the bitumen road, which was a main thoroughfare, it would get fixed, however it appeared on the hierarchy. So what's the end game here a little bit, other than this other table which talks about usage, I suppose?
It's recommendation purely based on the I guess, adjusted traffic data on it, so it's a higher use, which will obviously deteriorate the road quicker the more traffic you're going to have on it. Yeah. And have more use. So, yeah. You can hold over till Daniel's at the table if you want to. It's not going to make any... if you don't make a decision tonight about it and you're happy to wait for Daniel to perhaps provide some commentary to it, it's not going to make much difference to anyone's life in a month or two.
That's what I'm thinking. I'd be happy with that.
If you want to have the opportunity to go for a bit of a quick drive around.
Absolutely.
I think, sorry to cut in. In the report, it's got the previous count, but not the current updated count. That's probably the gap where you can see where it sits in the previous part of the hierarchy, even though it's been slightly reclassified, but then it jumps into a different part, doesn't it? That's why the whole report is there.
All right. Councillor Goodwin, yep.
My question, in addition to the ones raised by Councillor Grundy, is that there's a number of roads there that would be considered as part of the town rejuvenation plan, and just we want to know what the consideration is in regard to, how that plan functions and these changes fitting into that.
Councillor Hynd, you wanted to say something? Did you?
You just knew I was going to ask. Does this, when we've got things such as Bank Place, for instance, if we're upgrading that to a collector urban, we're talking in general, they're of a greater width, possibility of a bicycle path, a bike thoroughfare through it. Are we talking, if we're upgrading it, that we're going to actually be looking at wanting to change it to meet those specifications? Are there things that are going to change with these roads, or do they just keep cruising through where they are?
The town rejuve plan, I think Bank Place, is some slight alterations to it, but not major. Jones obviously was. DeGarris Place was the design we're working on is to make it one way.
Which is, I'm not even sure that fits with collector urban and one-way street, does it? I'm not even sure.
It still may, but it's going to depend on how much gets used. Whether making it one way alters its use, it may. I can't answer that.
And if we're stepping up to a collector urban, the road, if it's staying the same as what it is now, does that actually change your depreciation of what you're saying that road's worth?
Only way it changes depreciation if the life changes. So, I wouldn't like to guess an answer now.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So the life of a road is what will So we have the different lives of the various roads. So it may alter the life, which would then increase or decrease depreciation depending whether you're going up or down, potentially.
All right. Well, why don't we can let this lapse, can't we? This one. So, yep.
You don't. There's no effect if you don't make a decision on it tonight.
Yep. Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll liaise. Oh, sorry.
For the benefit of Daniel not being here, and maybe Rob, can I just touch on my 4 points?
Go for it.
Really, it was the effect on the depreciation, the financial implications for the ratepayer, the financial implications for future grants, and whether that was going to be enhance it perhaps, and the implications for DIT assistance at intersections, for instance.
Okay. Right, and then we'll sort of contact, work out when it might be suitable time to catch up and go for a bit of a drive around. Have a bit of a look. Read that. All right. Thank you. All right. So move on to 5. Sorry. Yeah.
We should move back into meeting procedure.
Yes. Good point. Move back into meeting procedure. Carried. Thank you. 5.2 driveway policy review. So there's a recommendation here. So Rob, I'll leave this with you.
Yeah, so at the SAP meeting in February 24 earlier this year, we brought the driveway policy to the SAP meeting, and there was a lot of good discussion, and we've updated the policy to reflect that discussion and listed there on page 10 of the 5 items that we've included and made the amendments, and there's a draft version number 3 as an attachment. So yeah, we're looking for endorsement of that policy to be able to take it to council for approval.
Okay. Question? Yes.
Happy to move.
Yep. Yeah, Ross, a seconder. Councillor Ireland. Now, do you want to talk to it?
This discussion's been had at a previous time, and a lot of work's gone into the driveway access. More than happy with the policy.
Councillor Ireland, did you want to talk to it?
Good, thank you.
Right. Any further discussion? All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, so reports for information. This is for members' information. 6.1, which is the DIT Callendale Road and Diagonal Road intersection. So this probably would have been good with Daniel being here, because he's the one that's provided all the correspondence backwards and forwards. But are you able to give us a bit of an overview?
Yeah, well, as you can appreciate from the correspondence with Daniel, this has been going on for multiple years. As I understand it, the only update and addition that I can actually give is the potholes were actually filled in early August.
Potholes were
filled in, so that picture, the picture that's there on the right, those potholes have all been filled in by DIT in early August. That's the only update I can give. It's still sitting there waiting for DIT funding in terms of any upgrades or improvements. And I believe that in the attachment there's a proposal of what
Yes.
they're trying to get to do, but it's sitting in their budget, or sitting in their plan.
Not in their budget.
Not in their budget currently, but for future budgets.
There's been our ongoing meetings with DIT that we have on a 3 or 6 monthly basis. Daniel's been raising this for a long time. It's a priority for them, but they've never got any money to do it. So we do question their priorities. So.
This is happening across the southeast, and I was just wondering whether it's most probably appropriate. I mean, the LCLGA, needs to take this up on a broader landscape size scale from all councils, and whether it's about Fulton Hogan or whether it's about DIT money, or whether it's about grants, or whether internal grants from within the department. That's not it's not the case here. It's actually the case is that, the roads are not fit for purposes. The intersections are dangerous. There's an enormous amount of heavy log trucks coming out of these intersections. So my suggestion would be that we write a letter, write a letter to the LCLGA asking them to prosecute the case for better maintenance across the southeast. I mean, we're obviously speaking about Naracoorte Council area. But this is across the southeast, and I think that'll be, we don't see these letters coming in, and I think it's important for LCLGA to represent their member councils to actually do that, to move things at a high level.
All right, so did you move a motion for that then?
Sure.
Yep. So,
I'll second that.
yep, so Mayor Ross.
The recommendation. Bring the Naracoorte Council right to LCLGA.
Seeking advocacy for, advocating for improvements and budget allocations from DIP for this road and other regional priorities. Or you just want to focus on that one?
No. Well, I get why we'd want to focus on that one, which is fair, but I think we can also lift LCLGA's eyes a little by saying, more regionally as well.
Sorry, I didn't.
Stop trying to repeat that. It'll be recorded.
Exactly.
It will be recorded.
It's here with live stream, so it'll be recorded, so we'll put that in as per my words, if you're happy with that.
No occasions, no relation.
Oh, I thought it was Grundy.
So what do you say? Just
That's it.
Yes, we'll tidy it up.
we'll tidy it up then. Okay. Any further discussion then with that recommendation? All in favour? That's carried. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, 6.2. This is the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator website information that's been requested previously. So, Rob, did you want to talk to that?
Just briefly, back at the previous SAP meeting, there was a lot of good discussion around NHVR and access to information and heavy vehicle permits. So we've uploaded or put the links on Council's website so that people can find those links so they can get to the right place. So there's links there to the actual NHVR web homepage, the NHVR National Network Map, and the NHVR permit application page. So it's just providing another conduit for people to be able to get the information quickly from our website if they need it.
Look, I was hoping for this, and then really the administration probably brought it to our attention that it's not just as easy as it's not cookie cutter stuff, but at least going down this path, at least people can go to somewhere to start doing their own research, which they would need to do, it seems, depending very much on their own truck, etc. So I'm pleased that this has happened.
Good. All right, so no further discussion. We'll move on. So 6.3, there's for members' information. This is the year operational customer request summary. So, Rob, I'll put that back onto you again.
No worries. So yeah, there's the 5-year customer request. There's a summary graph shown on page 14. Now it covers all customer requests that we receive. Now that may well be a thank you or congratulations, I'm not happy, a request for information, notification of vandalism. So although customer requests do cover all sort of requests that come into council. So that shows the trend there of the types of requests that we're getting, focusing on trees, parks and gardens, sealed road maintenance or sealed roads, and then unsealed roads. Just to show how many we've received each year for the last 5 years.
It's interesting to note that some trends are down, and I noticed open spaces and gardens are up. Maybe that's an indication of lifestyle and people utilising those spaces more over the last 5 years.
Any further comments?
Is there anything about any outcomes? Any information regarding outcomes?
Not that I'm aware of. It's just purely the number of requests that we've received, and that's how they're categorised when they come in.
Fair enough.
So anything, like say, for unsealed roads, it could be a thank you for grading my road. His customer request gets counted the same way as I'd like my road graded, or
So in relation to customer requests, and I have been known to put in one or two in the last 2 or 3 weeks, how do I know that they, one assumes that you get the customer request, that's a given, I suppose, but I don't know that. And 2, is it important that I know that that's been actioned on and I don't actually get information about whether it's been actioned or not? So, can we have any procedures in place that would, be able to get back to the complainant that says, thanks, we've received that, and not only that, sometime later, within the period that you have, to come back and say that yes, we can deal with that. We are going to deal with that now, or in fact, yes, we intend to deal with that in the next month. Is that reasonable, unreasonable?
no, it's very reasonable to say some requests might be straightforward and just get done.
Yep.
Particularly around parks and gardens, it might just be picked up when the crews are in the zone. So the customer may not always get a response if it is straightforward, but certainly if it isn't a straightforward request, you should be getting a response to say, I've received your request, I need some more information, or this is what the action that we're going to take, and a potential time frame might be this. So, yeah.
So will that take up an unreasonable amount of time, dealing with that administratively?
I just think it's part of the way of doing business.
So we'll double check. You should get an acknowledgement when you put one in, so an auto, so you know that we've got it. And then depending what the extent of the
We
issue.
don't have that in place at the moment. We don't have an
Yeah,
auto response.
yeah, should be. So it's an auto, it's an acknowledgement, not saying we're
Yes.
doing it, but it's just an acknowledgement, so at least you know that we've received something. That's through our record system. And then depending on what the issue is the extent of contact or not contact, or, it's made, yeah. So it's merit based on how but yeah, there's accountability within our systems that they get action. Yep.
Okay, happy with that? Right, so we move on to 6.4, members' information again. It's the parks and gardens maintenance at Francis. So this is some things that come back from a recent meeting at the from Francis Progress Association at the August council meeting. So did you want to talk to this as well, Rob?
Yeah, just a quick overview, just an acknowledgement of, we will prepare costings and programmes in line with our service levels of what we need to do out at Francis. Probably just noting there that there isn't a current agreement that the Francis Progress Association will be maintaining the bike tracks and the grounds. They're doing some tasks, we're doing some tasks. So that is the current agreement, which I understand they'll be continuing with. This is more around the whippersnipper and the maintenance of the verges and the playground and bits and pieces around Francis. We will work through that in accordance with service levels, bring it back to the council.
Comments?
So just as should that those Francis Community Park open space areas, should they be appearing on a hierarchy to formalise what Rob has just set out, or does that just go onto the works program by default? How does that work?
We will certainly look at the roadsides, the verges and the playground that's there. We already conduct quarterly inspections of the playground for compliance, but previously the Progress Association have kept up with the maintenance and weeding, day-to-day maintenance of the playground. So we will look at our service levels, and based on the size of the playground and everything else, we will maintain it in accordance with service levels that we have for all our playgrounds and open spaces.
But there will be something come back to council. Because it'll be an additional cost that we don't do now, so we'll bring it back for information once we know what the extent is or not, for council to make, not necessarily a decision, but as informed about what the cost may or may not be, just from information point of view on where that fits in the various service levels. Yep.
Cool.
Happy with that?
That's it. Okay. Right. Okay, so we'll move on to 6.5, which is a motion with notice. So the Mundalina Road Review. So this relates to Councillor Rayner's request in a motion with notice. So what we can do is, Councillor Rayner, I'll let you can talk to your motion, and then we can then respond.
So I'd like to withdraw the motion with notice and move that the Mundalina Road be brought forward for reshedding in the 25-26 budget.
Okay. So did you want to talk to the reason with that then?
Well, just that road, I think it's mainly its need, what the need of the road is, not traffic counts. And I think this council's got to start looking at need of roads because of land prices, and there's more production being got as land prices rise, the production's increasing. I don't know if you want to know. Look, when blue gums went in our district, previous to the blue gums going in, we were doing 14,000 bales a year. When all the blue gums went, pardon?
A haul.
Yep.
Yep.
When all the blue gums went in, we dropped back to 9,000 bales a year. But people must have started farming better because we got back up to 14,000 bales a year, and then all the blue gums in as well. So people start producing more off their land. They would start farming better, fertilising, increasing pastures, because the land prices are going up and they've got it. So I think that's why we've got to look at a lot of these roads, the need of why they've got to be upgraded.
Okay, so what I might do is kind of show of hands to go to meeting procedure, because it's worth just having a bit of a quick chat about it. Or you happy, or are you happy with the recommendation? Because I've just got some questions though. That's all I would like to ask.
I'll go into meeting procedure.
Yeah. So show of hands. Okay. So in regards to this road's come up previously. So, and we've all gone and inspected the road at the previous council. So, what was the reason why it didn't go ahead previously when we looked at increasing? Because I think there was talking about reshedding it then, wasn't it not? So
It was put up to be reshedded, then it was dropped off. I don't know
so
why.
you don't know why?
No.
Okay.
It's in the budget.
No. Yeah, but yeah. Okay.
So it was in the draft budget where we, similar to what we do now, go through the various workshops. It was dropped out from one of the workshops. From memory, it was based. So, just for clarity, Trevor, you're talking about what's classed as the unformed part now. Is that what bit that you're talking about, or yeah? So, it was to do with the landowner's infrastructure that's basically sits right adjacent to the road reserve. So that's why it was dropped off last time, because the cause and effect of us putting a formed road in affects what they need to do. And that's where the discussion was, 2021, I think it was, from memory. So there's, without looking at a satellite map, there's one house there that I think encroaches on our road reserve. So the cause and effect is that road would be then 100-kilometre speed limit. So you have to be there.
I don't reckon the house wouldn't be on the road reserve.
I think it's not the house, but their front yard is, I think.
Oh, well, that's pretty similar to what happens in townships. The gardens encroach onto the road reserve. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you've got a solid structure, you just have to be a little careful. Yeah. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying there's a cause and effect that we have to assess, including some of the yard infrastructure that's in that area. Yeah. So as a suggestion, not saying we shouldn't go with the recommendation, but it should also probably undertake some consultation with those landowners, so they're fully informed of, if we build a road, this is the cause and effect. Otherwise, you don't want to start building a road, then you get generally you wouldn't think you'll get opposition to that, but you may get some.
By memory, there's a set of yards right on the road.
Some
as well.
yards and, yeah, the houses
There's no yards on the road.
No yards on the road.
Wasn't it close to the road?
used to be, I think.
Oh, was it? I thought there was when we went past there. Okay,
And they tend to look like they are, but they're not.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just vaguely
And
remember
I
seeing
think
that.
the next thing would be, there'd be a fair bit of pressure put on to upgrade that bridge. Like, people have actually run into the bridges, and it's drainage board's bridge, but it's pretty narrow. And when the road gets rough, people are dodging potholes, and they've actually hit the AMCO railing there.
Mayor Ross will be funding for that through the drainage board, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So going back to the recommendation then, so is it reasonable to say, while you put the recommendation there to be brought forward, is it better to commence the discussions to potentially look at it, and that which includes the discussion with landholders? Or will you go straight to the recommendation to be brought forward?
I'm only talking 25, 26 budget, so we're not talking this is going to take place immediately. And if I can just bring up, I was just looking over some of the correspondence that appears Mr Watson had with the council here. He's offering rubble. It was moved by the council apparently for it to be resheeted. It's a rural access road. I think we should perhaps progress down this line at this point in time, and the appropriate parties have to be, people are joining this road reserve can be notified. Just so we've got a motion, we know where they're going. These people, these landholders know where they're going with the road that's going past their properties.
Just clarification, I may have misheard, but Mr Smart, did you say that it would be 100 km/h road?
My understanding, I think, yeah.
Because I think
We don't set speed limits on unsealed roads.
all right, because the access rural road is designed for 50 to 60
The design is, but
km/h,
then, yeah.
but the actuality is that they might. Okay, thank you.
We're doing 100.
With those road counters, you can actually tell the speed, can't you?
Yep.
So if you had, what is the speed, do you know what the speed is on those counters?
Off the top of my head, no, but.
I wouldn't think,
We get quite a range.
travelling, they'd be lucky if they're doing 60 k's an hour along that road.
That may be the case. All I'm stating is if you want to, you can.
Yeah.
SAP can't do much about it. Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm not saying they will.
we'll go back into meeting procedure then. So if that's okay, there's no more further discussion. Show of hands. Yep. Okay, so there's a recommendation there. So, yeah, Councillor.
A recommendation, a motion. You're
That's
talking.
right, yeah.
Did you want to include some
Yeah, it's-
consultation?
A second for it.
Yep. So Councillor Ireland, seconded. That will consultation will form part. Okay. Any further discussion? Sorry.
So when if we pass the motion tonight, which I'm sure we will, that the cost implications of this road being resheeted and reformed will be, and can we invite the members along that road to come to council and speak to us? Maybe invite, but not insist that they come and submit some discussion.
At some time?
Yep. Please.
What do you want?
So if, in the event of this motion being passed, can we invite the stakeholders in Mundalena Road, the direct stakeholders, to attend council to present at the start of council? Whether they choose to take that up, I'd be very interested to hear their opinions on the history of the road and the consequences of forming it up and all that sort of stuff, and it'd be vital, I think, to making a decision.
Councillor Goodwin?
That's not a requirement we put on any other roads
No,
that we
absolutely
resheet.
not, no.
And I
It's
mean, I think that councillors can all do their own homework in contacting people outside of meetings if they're after that kind of information. And I think this isn't really a bringing forward of the resheeting, it's a rescheduling of the resheeting that was put back from 2021, 2022. So I think from that regard, it's a different.
Fair point.
This is not a resheeting. This is actually a construction of a proper road.
either way, it was in the budget for 21-22, so it's not really a bringing forward, is it? It's a rescheduling of something that had previously.
We will then have to maintain, just to clarify, we will then have to maintain the road to this new present state that we're placing it in. And I'm not in any way insisting that I think that it'd be, I'm not saying if they don't attend, I don't believe the motion will be defeated if they don't, but just to make them personally aware in writing, which will probably occur anyway, that this work's going ahead rather than having to read it in the minutes of a council meeting. That's probably, because it is a pretty big change. If someone was going to, reform my road and along my farm, I'd probably want something in writing from the council to let me know, and just maybe an invitation to say, if you do wish to speak to our council, you can. If not, you don't have to. That's probably my point. Not an insistence. And then,
Entirely up to council.
do you have to put that in the motion, or can we just say that we'd like to do that?
We've got our consultation there.
I'm sure the council can make that decision at the time it goes to council.
Yep. Okay.
Right, so any further discussion?
Sorry, just to clarify, but if it comes forward in a council meeting as a motion from the SAP, yes, there will be no letter to no invitation, will there?
Not at that
If we
point.
don't do anything, it'll just come to council. Maybe we then we can, as councillors, engage with those stakeholders on that road then and ask them to come.
But it'll come to the council as a recommendation.
Correct.
And then the council can, at that point, they can take the recommendation up, and then it goes through the whole process of the budget.
Yes.
So nothing is certain until, the budget is actually done, signed off at the end of June 25.
Yep.
And so there's most probably ample time
Yep.
in budget deliberations leading up to that to have the discussion and see how that's progressing during the course of, from February towards June. Is that fair?
Yep.
That's fair. All right. All in favour? Against? No, carried. Thank you. Okay, so we've got there's questions with notice with Neil. We've moved on to motions with notice, so we've just worked through 8.1. So 8.2, Councillor Ireland, you've got a motion with notice.
If I could amend that, well, I'd like a recommendation from Mr Naracoorte, if that's possible, please. I'd like to change that motion to be that a management plan be created specifically for Crocodile Lake rather than an AMP. I'd like, if I could, Mr Naracoorte could give me some information as to the direction I'm taking, please.
So do you want a asset management plan created for Cockatoo Lake, or do you want a master plan created for Cockatoo Lake?
This is the direction that I'm asking from you, and we've had discussion about this over the phone when you were in the hot seat when Mr Smart was away, and I appreciated your input. But and the reason for this motion is that I see.
No, it's not an amendment.
I see some significant expenditure needed out there in the foreseeable future, not necessarily this budget, but I thought that that's going to be very hard if it's not in a plan of some sort that the council admin can recognise to say this is money that will be needing to be spent looking forward.
So Cockatoo Lake's captured in our open space AMPs already with their assets in regards to what's captured out there. Master plan obviously will take it to that next level, which you're looking at additional infrastructure and replacement of the different areas, i.e. we discussed the sections of, external fencing and so forth. So some of it's already captured in our open space, AMP open space.
It is, but somebody's inspected the fencing out and said there's not a problem with the fencing and the tracks are fine, and there's 750mm deep holes going around the outside of the lake, and the fencing's not stop-proof. It's not fit for purpose. So that's why there's a deficiency in what's taking place out there. I'm just wanting, some direction, please.
Yeah, well,
Can I jump in? Could Mr Naracoorte or Trevor, Mr Smart, talk us through what the difference would be between a management plan, which I think is referred to in the hierarchy, as opposed to an asset management plan? Is that more of a does that deal with more of the day-to-day stuff rather than a full-blown asset management plan, which may not be required, without putting words in Councillor Ireland's mouth?
So AMP is about maintaining your current assets, which we haven't got many out there. So a management plan or a master plan is trying to plan for what you want the area to be. That could be both from a future maintenance, future use, aspirational thinking, that sort of thing. So it depends what you're actually looking for, sort of thing, which I don't know that.
I guess my understanding of this is, in terms of looking at the open space AMP, when it comes to the level of service provided to a regional open space, which is where Cockatoo Lake sits, in the level of service column, it says, as provided by council policies and planning documents, including road and stormwater management plan, footpath hierarchy, swimming lake master plan for the Naracoorte Regional Sports Centre. So unless there are other policies there that cover the kinds of things that Councillor Ireland is referring to about fencing, it's unclear to me what that service level would be for Cockatoo Lake in regard to those kind of assets. So with that in mind, my personal view right now, but I'm prepared to be swayed, is that we don't need a master plan because we're not aspirational in developing in that way, but we do need something perhaps more that provides direction around the maintenance of the assets that are currently there.
Response to that?
No, well, it's, yeah, we have to understand the intent, so that's a good starting point, which we're doing now.
So some of our works are picked up by our operational budget, such as slashing and so forth. The graders periodically go down there when they're working in the area to basically take it that front section to the Cockatoo Lake on the eastern side. We don't have anything captured in regards to external fencing, which is what you've raised, and that can be something that we can capture at a future date as part of a budget consideration, because periodically these things are going to they'll pop up over time. So we can do a master plan on a big scale, or we could do a master plan on a small scale. It depends on what the elected member body want to take it to and how they want to develop that area. Now, if it's a case of they don't want to develop there, they just want to maintain the current assets, then we probably don't need that master plan, like Councillor Goodman just said.
Or are you looking for just a bit of clarity in the current open space asset management plan of how we look after it, i.e. service levels?
Yes.
So I'm asking you, not telling you what you have to, but I'm trying to understand what you want, that's all.
Well, if I can just chime in here, thank you, Chairman Ross. I mean, the direction was that I see the fencing on the southern side of the lake, and it's only a very short fence, but it's actually almost, it's quite a gradient down to the lake and may need a reasonable amount of money spent there. And I wonder, under our open space management plan, whether this Cockatoo Lake at the very least needs its own management plan to be looked at, so that, like I said, if this is going to rear its ugly head when we get to a budget deliberations, there's some reason behind it, and we're looking forward with some strategic thinking of money that may need to be spent there in the next 2 to 3 years and forward from there. So whether a specific management plan for Cockatoo Lake is a better direction, or whether we have a very simple AMP, that's...
Yeah, I would suggest it's just probably a updated version within our open space AMPs to provide a bit of clarity of, one, what assets are there, and how you go.
It wouldn't be dissimilar to an open space where you've got a playground with a perimeter fence. So I guess Cockatoo Lake, you could probably look at it and capture that in the same picture. Yes, it's not a pool fence at 1.2. It's more about the perimeter fencing and so forth. So those are those things that we need to capture as what the assets are out there. The culverts for the fire pits, etc. We've captured some of those in the shelters, and obviously the toilets are a classic example that's come through the AMP and now has been captured and installed them last financial year. So it's probably an asset we haven't captured out there, and it probably just needs to be drilled into an AMP somewhere along the line.
Well, I'm happy with, I need, like I said, I need this direction as to what I'm going to move here as a motion or whether I need a motion. But obviously we need to redefine the management that's taking place at a Cocktail Lake in some way, shape or form so that it's, well, I mean, obviously there's some deficiencies out there that need to be addressed. So what would you like, what am I moving? Do you want to leave it as this open? I mean, sorry.
So I think what you need, given Mr McCroskey's input, is some further clarification within the open space AMP in regard to Cockatoo Lake, and you can build in some clarity around some of the assets within that open space format. At least, let's look at that as as a reasonable option.
So that the open space AMP is amended to reflect
All assets.
maintenance of all assets at Cockatoo Lake and service levels.
Thank you.
I think that captures it, doesn't it? I think. You'll tell me when we come up with a draft.
Yeah, well, this is true.
I think that's, once we understand your intent, then we can help decide how best.
And the first sentence can disappear, can't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Are you happy with that?
I'm happy to move that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayner? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item 9, questions without notice. Is there any questions without notice? No? Motions without notice? Yep, that's a good one.
I have 2 that I'd like to put. So if I'd like to move that council provide dog poo bags at the Francis Recreation Reserve, and I'd like to speak to that a bit more if I may.
Dog poo bags. Is there a more technical term for that?
I've thought about it and,
At the Francis
Sorry, Francis where?
Recreation Reserve.
Oh, thanks.
Dog potty bags.
Station or something.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. As we know, we had a presentation from Danielle Moore representing the Francis Progress Association at our August meeting at Francis, and one of the things that she did ask of elected members was consideration for the provision of dog tidy bags at the Francis Rec Reserve. I know she has previously asked this of administration, and they rightly responded saying that as it is a leased area, that would be the responsibility of the leasee, but as community members are entitled to do, they came and asked that consideration be given to putting them at the Francis Rec Reserve by council in this case, and given that this is an area that's also used by free camping for RVs and things like that, I think it's a reasonable request, and that council do that. I think also, given that council will be taking, probably spending more time out there with the updated maintenance schedule that we'll be delivering, servicing that should not be much of a problem.
Okay. Is there a
question? What would be the financial implication of a dog tidy bag station, roughly?
Don't know.
Well, is it less than $500?
Don't know.
Installation would be less than $500, and the bags, obviously, we order them throughout the other areas of the council. So it'll be basically the cost of the staff member going out there to install them. The operations staff who do our parks and gardens mowing don't generally do the restocking the dog tidy bags. That's done by a compliance officer. So at present, we looked up the data. There's 12 registered/unregistered dogs in Francis. The problem is if the bags aren't used regularly because they're biodegradable, when they get wet, they basically disintegrate and they stick together. So if they're not being used, we've still got to maintain them anyway, or replace them, I should say.
But it's not about the registered dogs necessarily at Francis. It's maybe more about the use of the RV park and people who travel with their dogs.
Probably.
Would there be is there a seconder? I'll say. Yep, the councillor owner. Okay, so yes, you can.
Look, Daniel Moore's deputation at the Francis meeting was a very good one, I felt, and while this may not fit every rule in the rule book, we as councillors, we carry out our role, and sometimes we just have to, understand what's reasonable and what's not reasonable, and I think that this is reasonable.
So,
Close if I may.
before you close it, does anyone else want to talk to it?
No.
I just wanted to add that I understand that there may be concern that this is setting a precedent that everybody who comes to council and asks for doggy tidy bags will get doggy tidy bags, and I'd like to say that that isn't the precedent that's being set. The precedent that is being set is that if questions are being asked of the elected member body, that they all get their own consideration and the appropriate decision made on each one that comes before us.
No further comment? All in favour? Carried. Okay, and second motion?
And the second motion is that the council advocate to DIT on behalf of the Francis community, requesting that the rail reserve be maintained to reduce fire risk to the township. Again, this was a request from Danielle on behalf of the Francis community. It's something that they spoke to council about the last time we had a meeting out there. They understand that this isn't land that is owned and managed by council, it is land that's owned and managed by DIT, but I think that it's reasonable that they request that council advocate on their behalf. Council have a very different seat at the table with DIT than an individual does, going and asking these questions, and on top of that, council represents the community body, whereas an individual going to DIT represents an individual. So on that basis, I think that council is in a good position to advocate for the community.
Could you just read your motion again,
Sorry.
please?
That council advocate to DIT on behalf of the Francis community, requesting that the rail reserve be maintained to reduce fire risk to the township.
Okay. Before I go to a seconder, I'll let...
So that recommendation is pretty much like for like in regards to the Francis Community Plan. And myself, I was coming to the September council meeting. Myself and Gus Grist have had numerous conversations with the DIT department to the point that we've gone and sought quotes on their behalf to clear the rail corridors at Francis, Kaiby, Hynham and Naracoorte, and obviously maintain going forward. They've since come back as of last Thursday's meeting we had with them, and they've basically given us free rein to go in and get the corridors cleaned up and maintain on a regular basis. They have given us approval to manage it with our contractors, who we see fit, and then on cost those to the DIT department. So they have made it very clear though, it's purely on a fire prevention. It's not about curating it like the Adelaide Oval. So there'll be peak periods during the year, i.e. when it's lush and green like now. Yes, it is going to be a lot longer than it is, but they'll obviously implement, and we've got capacity to put in sprayers and so forth as well. So they've basically handed over responsibility to us to a degree, and then we charge all those costs back to DIT. So we get better regulation of it and control over it than the department, obviously periodically doing it from an external perspective or a routine maintenance program.
So, Mayor Ross?
That's an excellent result, Mr McCroskey. Does it also include a length of railway reserve to the north of Francis Township?
So that will extend us further up as far as Popples when it comes back in, turns on the left-hand side back onto the Francis Bordertown Road.
Okay.
So there is terrain in there, and we're going to get a requote at the moment because some of that terrain is problematic with rail corridor, and there's culverts that have collapsed and so forth. So they're still trying to work out the configuration, how they get in there for accessibility, i.e. spray booms or QRVs or slashes and so forth. So that is the problem part, the further north section, but they're also looking at that, and that did have been forthcoming and being pretty good to work with in that regard.
Excellent.
So, Councillor Goodman?
Yeah, just a further question. Thank you. I didn't get that response to email question about it, but that's really good to hear. My question then is that going to be provided in the minutes for us, agenda for our September council meeting?
So that pretty much what I've just stated is my departmental report that I've only finished today, which will be in the September meeting. So yeah, it'll be then for the community to view as well.
Fabulous, thank you. With that information in mind, I'm happy to withdraw that motion. Yep.
Good job.
That's a good outcome. Excellent. Any more motions with that notice?
Fee, you leave that in there. Fee, you leave it in there.
Oh, sorry, just write withdrawn.
Just withdrawn, yes.
Oh, sorry, yep, good call.
Okay, so there is no matters the CEO recommends to be in confidence. Next meeting, we're looking at the 12th of November at 6 o'clock. And with that, I close the meeting at 7:35. Thank you all.